So the accessibility report came out from the federal government in regards to employment. And I actually saw a comment saying how amazing it was. And it felt like because they were presenting it in one way, then people automatically assume that there's one way for disabled people to be employed. And I do want to acknowledge that there are obviously disabled people who cannot work, and that is completely valid and understandable. But when we're talking about like accessibility and employment, the only way that's being presented currently is being employed by somebody else. Now, the groups that they highlight, like Open Door Group, if you go to their website, is very much about highlighting the benefits to the employer versus the benefits for the disabled employee. That to me becomes wildly problematic because I perceive it as tokenization. If a disabled person is only good as an employee for another business, how are we going to acknowledge that for some of us, entrepreneurship and self-employment has been the key to accessibility for certain individuals? My work was born out of necessity because of the situations that I kept getting in with employers. And as an autistic person, certain things kept reoccurring for me in the workplace. Lighting, smells, conflict with other people, the mental strain that it put on me as somebody who on paper can really only do retail jobs. I've been able to build a business where I have nearly 300 items by myself because I saw the potential in myself that other people could not see, which is why it is so troubling for me to read these reports and to see this self-fulfilling prophecy that exists within the disability, accessibility, employment realm. We are talking organizations that have people on the board who I have contacted. I've also spoken to the accessibility minister. I've also spoken about this provincially and federally with nothing happening. The organization, one of them that was cited or at least affiliated with this article, this release, 1 year, cumulatively, the businesses that the people on the board represented made $38 billion. So I am not understanding why the government and why they're still receiving funding for accessible employment. Like, cool, you were super profitable. What was the benefit to your employee? Because as it stands, it is a legal obligation to hire inclusively, but then they use it as a marketing tactic. And it's so frustrating to me because I see this as tokenization. A lot of people don't, and I understand that. But here's the thing. If you're presenting employment in one way, being employed by somebody else, and you're not even acknowledging self-employment, even talking about it, these organizations won't even talk about it. Instead, they tell me they don't like my approach, they ignore me. They're the ones that have the relationship with the government and can say, hey, we're going to implement some programs for self-employed disabled people or people who want to become entrepreneurs and have a disability. Here's the thing, they can't claim to be inclusive or accessible or inclusive of all employment for disabled people if they're not actively going to talk about self-employment being a viable realm of employment for disabled people, for those who may want it. And I've heard from so many people that this is the route they want to go on, but there's no help for them. There's no help unless they want to sit through a Zoom call, take out a loan, or watch some videos. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. That's not cutting it, and that's really not okay.